All right. So welcome to the Somatics of Self-Care. For those of you that are new here, hi, I'm Jenna, and I'm going to introduce myself in just a moment. But first I wanted to share, I wanted to create this workshop because one of the things that I hear kind of regularly with some of my clients is, self-care feels like a chore, or they don't seem to get much out of their self-care practices. And it really got me thinking, why is that? And it made me recognize that a lot of times people view self-care as an action, as something that they're just doing. And it misses the mark because there's this aspect missing to the practice itself. And that, to me, of course, is somatics. So as we get into learning about somatics, that'll make sense for you too. For those of you that are new to my world, I'm Jena. I am a healing arts educator. I love teaching. I love sharing things. I've been a massage and Reiki practitioner for 20 years. I've been in the yoga and coaching field for about 15. And somatics is my area of specialty. I've been really diving into somatics for about the last 4 years now. And I'm currently in school working on my degree in integrative somatic psychology. So I am all in on this somatics aspect of how things work, because it makes sense, and it makes sense on how I have created the change and transformation in my life that I have. And that comes from things that I didn't realize working the way that they were working. And somatics kind of really made all of it make sense. So let me back up and share what that is. So I was actually diagnosed with an anxiety disorder, and my anxiety was so bad that I developed agoraphobia. I couldn't leave my house. Imagine that. Those of you that know me now, like, you would never guess that that was my world. I couldn't make eye contact with people. I had very, very severe social anxiety, and it was hell, really. Imagine being trapped in your house because you can't even make it to the end of your driveway without an intense panic attack that often would result in passing out, because that was literally my life. And it was torturous. I had to take medications just to calm my nervous system down enough to be able to get through daily life. And I didn't like the way that I felt on the medications. I was having really bad side effects from them, but it was the only thing that was helping for me to at least be able to go to college and do things that normal people can just simply do. Uh, After that, and getting into the healing arts field, I really saw a transition in myself of not needing the medication anymore and actually taking progressive steps to overcome my social anxiety and being able to speak to people and make eye contact and have better relationship dynamics in the world around me. And now I understand it is because of the somatic aspect of the things that I was doing, that I was just being guided to do, such as massage and yoga and Reiki, right? So these qualities of practices, they work on a somatic level as well. So that is why I'm super passionate about this, why I love to share it, because ultimately I want to help other people. That's why I've been in this field for 20 years and why I continue to work in this field. So another fun fact about me, I am an animal lover. I have 4 cats now. I just keep piling up. We're down to 2 dogs. We've lost 3 of our dogs to old age. And I've got 2 birds, which you might hear in the background every so often. I also was certified in wildlife rehab. So I took a break from people for a bit and focused on animals for a little while, and really got to attribute my massage and Reiki into the world of wildlife rehab. And that was super fun to experience because I love all animals. I don't care if they're creepy crawlies or furry friends. I love animals. So my most fun rehab experience was an alligator down the road for me, that we actually got into the back of my car, and I got to take him to the wildlife rehab center to help him heal. And that was a wild experience. Don't recommend. So now on to good stuff. I think it's super important you understand and know where I'm coming from in my healing work. This used to be a motto that I had at the top of my website and the top of my business page on Facebook. And it's, you are more than just your body. You are more than just your mind. You are more than just your spirit. You are all of these combined. And when I talk about holism or holistic, I am talking about this aspect of being that encompasses the whole person. And this has always been my approach because I knew for myself that was a huge part in my own healing and wellness, was recognizing that I not only had to take care of my body, but also my mind and also my spirit. I had to find that soul connection, those things that really nurture and nourish my soul, that give me that divine connection to help me to feel like I'm part of something greater than myself. And so recognizing that all of this is part of healing has been what I've even focused my business around. So everything that I offer takes this into consideration. So I think it's super important for you to know that, because this is how I view healing. This is how I view, all the things that we do together, is this aspect of wholeness and holism. So now let's talk about what we're going to get into today. Maybe. There we go. So today we're going to talk about what is somatics and the history of somatics. We're going to talk about the importance of self-regulation, and what that is, right? There's going to be a lot of terminology today. I will be breaking it down so that you know what we're talking about. And we're also going to explore some simple practices that you can incorporate into your daily life. And for those of you on live, there is a special bonus that I'm going to do at the end of our little slideshow today. But it's going to be especially for you for showing up and for sharing your time with me today, because I know that your time is valuable. And I so greatly appreciate all of you that support me in the work that I'm doing. So you're going to have a special bonus at the end of this. So let's talk about what is somatics. And a lot of times you'll see the word soma as broken down to mean body. But like most other languages, when it's translated to our English language, it loses a lot of context. And soma is one of those. So soma is actually a Greek word, and it means so much more than just the physical body. Soma actually encompasses the entire body-mind connection. And this connection is really talking about the communication systems within the body as it creates physiological changes and changes the physical body as well. So soma just means a lot more than just body in our terminology. It is the body mind. And with this, we begin to understand the importance of neuroception. So neuroception is a term that's coined by one of my teachers, Dr. Stephen Porges, and he's also the reason why I think somatic psychology has had such a revival. So somatic psychology is not new. It's been around for quite a long time, but we're seeing this revival of it, and it has a lot to do with a lot of the neurobiology, neurosciences, and what they are finding. So Dr. Stephen Porges is actually out of UNC Chapel Hill. So he is, yay, go North Carolina. But he is the one that developed the polyvagal theory. So if you've done any research, any reading into somatics, you're going to end up reading about polyvagal theory. And he really talks about our nervous system, how it reacts and responds. And he really has provided so much valuable information. And I really believe that this, combined with some other aspects, is the reason for this revival of somatics. And I myself am just so thankful for this, because this has been huge for my own understanding. And hopefully it's going to be huge for you and helping you in some way. So the nervous system, our nervous system is wild. I love learning about our nervous system. Think about it for a moment. Right now, your body is already naturally taking in cues from your environment and reading that, just the sensations of the things around you. It's automatically reading that and determining within your nervous system communication whether you're in a place that's safe or if you're in a place that is threatening. And this is always happening. We don't have to think about it. This is one of those ways that our nervous system is constantly working within our body, but yet it contributes to so much of our inner state of being. So the nervous system just always being on, it's always taking in information, it is always communicating. This is one of the important components of somatics, because once we understand that our nervous system is really what is the driving force behind us, behind our mind, behind our body, behind our spirit, and our feeling of connection, then we begin to understand that really the nervous system is our place that we need to focus on whenever we want to change any of those things. And with that comes the understanding of that body-mind communication. So our body-mind communication consists of the brain, the heart, and the gut. It's important to understand that this connection happens through the vagus nerve. So again, this is why that nervous system understanding is so important. Now, I know it's pretty easy to think like, of course, the brain is the powerhouse of this communication channel, right? Our brain is linked to our mind and our imagination, and it has 100 billion neurons in it. Our brain is meant to be very active in the process. But what a lot of people don't know is that our heart is referred to as the little brain, and it is our emotional center. It bridges our thoughts and our instincts, and it contains about 40,000 neurons. Now, the HeartMath Institute, if any of you watched Gaia TV and are a fan of Greg Braden, he's shared a lot about the HeartMath Institute and this connection with the heart and having the own heart mind because of the neurons that are contained in the heart. And so our heart has its own kind of thoughts, right? Those thoughts are what our emotions are. So our heart actually takes the information from our brain from previous experiences, and then it takes the information being received by our gut, our primal instincts, and it creates an emotion. And this emotion is what the heart has decided those two things mean. So that is the essence of the heart mind. And then we've got the gut. And our gut is called the second brain because it's got 500 million neurons. And our gut is so in tune with our vagus nerve. We have so much going on in our gut that directly influences our nervous system. And this is where the sensations of our environment begin to play a role. And those parts of our nervous system that we don't think about that are just automatic processes that are happening is part of this gut response, this primal instinct to keep us alive and to be surviving in the world. So this second brain talks to our main brain and comes to life in the heart brain, the little brain, as our emotional state of being. Understanding this body-mind communication is so important in somatics and understanding the nervous system and what is happening in the body and what the communication is going on. So as I shared, I had anxiety disorder. I should say I still have it. It's not like it just poof disappeared, but I know how to regulate my system so that I don't have to go into an anxiety attack. Now, this has taken many years of work. Like I said, I've been in this field for 20 years, so this is not an overnight experience. But I can tell you, understanding this would have been so helpful to me to getting to that endpoint so much sooner. And I wish I would have had this information and this knowledge back then. But I have it now. So here we are. The reason why this is so important is because we actually have these channels that help us with self-regulation. And self-regulation is how the body talks to itself. So our nervous system is either in a regulated state where it's peaceful and it's flowing, or it's dysregulated and it's feeling either anxious or in a frozen or shut down state, right? So we've got these two modes of survival, flight or flight, or freeze and shut down. So regulation is when we are really in that flow where we're not too far in one or too far in the other. And what another terminology that is often used in somatics is resiliency. Resiliency is our capacity to shift into an anxious state or that fight or flight state without going into overwhelm and that taking over, but rather we can get into that state because it is what is appropriate for the situation at hand, and we can still respond accordingly, or we go into that freeze shutdown state because that is what's appropriate for the situation at hand, but it's not taking over. So that is still being in a regulated state. We aren't meant to stay in a state where we're not fluctuating back and forth between these, but we're actually meant to build our window of resiliency, it's called, where we can fluctuate between these without going into the extreme of it. So an anxiety disorder would be an extreme of it. Now, self-regulation is the practice of taking the tools of communicating and talking to the nervous system to change that inner conversation so that you're kind of taking back control of the situation and you're not spiraling out in either direction. So that is why it is so important to understand those body-mind channels. They also incorporate different aspects of how things flow and move, right? So another thing to consider that is super important is the power of the mind and how it influences the body. So the body also influences the mind, and a lot of people miss that. It is not a one-way communication channel. It flows both ways. Our body signals to our mind, and our mind signals to our body. And this understanding of the communication within the nervous system really opens the doorway for the reasons why these somatic practices work, because we don't have to just focus on the thinking process, right? And we don't have to just focus on the physical body process, but we get to understand how the entire communication is happening so that we can begin to change it. Everyone doing good so far? I don't know that I'm even seeing the chat. I'm going to pause for a minute, maybe.
I have a question really quick.
Yes.
You mentioned in the previous slide self-regulation, and you said fight or flight, and then you said something else that I missed. The body.
Fight or flight, or it is freeze or shut down.
Or freeze or shut down. That was the word. Thank you.
Yes, yes. So it's like one end of the scale to the other end of the scale, right? So when we experience shutdown, it means that we either like are overwhelmed to the point where we're just in bed. We don't want to get up. We don't want to deal with any socializing. We just kind of need that shutdown. Or it can also mean like you shut down and that you just don't want to communicate anymore and you isolate yourself, or the freeze. So you could be in a situation where freezing is not the optimal response, yet you can't help it. You're frozen in place out of fear. And so that is a dorsal vagal shutdown where it literally just bottoms you out and you cannot move. And it's kind of beyond your control. The other aspect, the fight or flight, I think is the one a lot of people are most commonly aware of, because that tends to be the one where, you know, you get the anxiety, you get that fight or flight feeling where the adrenaline is going and you either run away or you want to fight, right? So it's that more hyped up energy versus freeze or shut down, which is that very like the energy just is gone and you just kind of bottom out. So those two are the two extremes of the nervous system channel. Now, when we think of the totality of the body-mind channel, we have these 5 channels of awareness that we can connect to. And one of my favorite teachers shared this, and she broke it down this way, and I absolutely loved it. And she talks about the mind channel, right? So that is going to be the thinking. And the imagination channel, right? If you have anxiety, the imagination channel can run wild as well. The emotion channel, which of course is connected to our heart, our posture channel, which is connected to the physical body, as well as the sensation channel, which is also our physical body aspect of the awareness that we can bring into the situation. So these 5 are super important to know. And the reason for that is because, our mind is where we can either rewrite our story, or it's where we become aware that we are running looped thoughts, right? So we can have this thinking in loops where we are replaying thoughts, going over a situation again and again, right? If you're mulling over a conversation and you're like, oh, I wish I would have said this, or I wish I would have said this different, right? That's the mind stories, the narration that is happening. And then we have the imagination. So the imagination, we can visualize what you want, right? But in the moment, the imagination might be imagining impending doom, right? Can definitely relate to that with anxiety. That's how a panic attack happens or an anxiety attack happens, right? That imagination channel gets on board and it's like 1,000 ways to die. And it's in split seconds, right? So that imagination channel is so powerful because your brain doesn't know that what you're imagining isn't real. So it just kind of is like, oh, she's imagining all of these situations. She must be in a threat situation. We need to sound all of the alarms, the bells and whistles, so that we can help her survive, right? That's what's happening inside the body. When really you can just be sitting on your porch, enjoying nature, right? And it's not really the truth of your surrounding, but simply because you're imagining it, this whole system goes on alert for a threat. And that is the power of your imagination channel. Your emotion channel, right? You can feel something different in any moment. That's super hard, but you can. Emotions are very fleeting. But in the moment, emotions can feel very overwhelming or very stressed, right? So if you're someone that connects deeply with the emotional aspect of self, then a lot of times your feelings are like too much, right? They are too much for you. And that is what causes your state of dysregulation. So when you are overwhelmed by stress, that is a feeling sensation that you are dealing with. So that feeling energy is connected to the heart, your emotion channel, and it's your emotion channel that is highly active at that moment. Then we've got the posture. So the posture channel is going to be like, change your shape, right? Change your posture, change the way you're sitting, change the way you're holding and carrying yourself, because the posture channel also connects to the body pain and the fatigue when you internalize stress. So as a body worker, I can absolutely attest people will internalize stress and it is carried on their shoulders, their backs, and their neck, right? That is the most common area for stress to be carried. That saying, carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, comes from the body posture that is typically held by people overwhelmed by stress. So here you've got that feeling energy, that emotional energy of being overwhelmed by stress, and the posture coming in that supports that feeling. So if you think about a time when maybe you've been stressed out, like, oh, yes, I can feel that in my body. My body is now closing down. It's rounding forward. And that can begin to perpetuate that feeling because the body's shape, your posture, also sends a message to your nervous system. If you want to feel stressed out, if you want to feel closed off, if you want to feel shut down, curl forward. That's going to initiate that response in the body. If you want to feel confident and poised and strong, open up through the chest and set those shoulders back and notice the difference in feeling that it creates for you, because it starts to change the inner dynamic of your inner world. So our posture and changing our shape also plays a role in this communication. Our sensation channel. So sensations are like the knot in your stomach, um, feelings of butterflies in your chest or in your stomach, right? Feeling an ache or a pain in a certain area, right? The actual physical sensations that you notice and become aware of in the body and where you're carrying something, that is coming through the sensation channel. So the sensation channel is one where we typically turn away from it, right? We don't want to feel those things that are uncomfortable in the body, so we tend to ignore it and disconnect from it, but we actually need to be turning towards it. We want to pay attention to the sensations that our body is telling us. That's how it's trying to communicate with us. It's trying to get your attention by signaling this sensation, this feeling happening in the physical body. And it's like, hey, pay attention to me. So rather than ignoring it, if you turn towards it, you will oftentimes uncover what is underneath that sensation, why you're feeling that sensation. And sometimes just that response of turning towards it is enough to really make a difference in dissipating that sensation. But when you run away from it, when you turn away from it, it keeps going. And a lot of times we'll add additional sensations trying to get your attention. And when that doesn't work, it turns on more bells and whistles for other channels to start becoming active to try to get your attention. So the best thing you can do is turn towards it, even when it's uncomfortable, even if it's just for a moment, to sit with it and feel that discomfort and what is under that discomfort to help it come to the surface, because it's just trying to let you know. So take a moment here to just kind of pause and think about what it feels like when you're really stressed, when you're really overwhelmed, when you've got a million things to do and you feel like there's not enough time and you're being pulled in 1,000 different directions and people are asking you to do more things for them and you're already struggling with what you have to do. Right? That's stress. That's overwhelmed. That sends a lot of people into a spiral. I know. I experienced that myself. But instead of spiraling with that, what if you paid attention to your posture? You paid attention to your emotion. You paid attention to what was going on in your mind. You paid attention to the sensation in your body when someone asked you to do something and you wanted to say no, but you didn't. You said yes when you really needed to say no. And paying attention in these little moments makes a huge difference in recognizing these different points of communication in your nervous system. And that is really where the change begins to happen. So if you in those moments can pause and recognize these different channels and how they're being activated, what messages they're sending, what they're trying to say, and begin to change that, how different could you feel in those moments? How different could you allow yourself to handle things? What would change? That's the power of somatics, is it really brings you into the power of choice in those moments, recognizing that power. And some of you, if you're friends with me on Facebook, you saw I've been complaining about this 15-page term paper I had to write. And I turned it in yesterday and I was so proud of myself. But in this term paper, I talked about a psychologist named Viktor Frankl. He is a Holocaust survivor and he actually was in concentration camps and he was a psychologist that was experiencing what it was like being in the concentration camps. And through that process, he developed a model of therapy called logotherapy. And he also wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. Highly recommend it. In this book, he talks about the power of choice and the power of choosing one's attitude in any given moment. And as someone that loves existential philosophy, which is that point that takes you to questioning life, your purpose, your meaning, what is the will behind it all, then that is something that you will absolutely love. But that power of choice is that point that always happens when you spiral out, right? You finally get to that point where you can't take anymore, and that point becomes that conscious choice of what you choose to do in that moment. What if you were able to access that choice a hell of a lot sooner than at the end of the spiral, right? That is what somatics does. It helps you to access this power of choice a lot sooner, so you don't have to spiral all the way out into a fully dysregulated state. Instead, you get to recognize, this is what's happening. I know this is what's happening. I know why this is happening, because I'm allowing myself to feel and recognize that internal communication that's happening. And this is what I can do to change it. So that's really the power. This is why I love somatics, because it really breaks it down in a way that helps you to move through these processes so much easier. So another thing that I want to just take a moment to hold space for. If you are someone that has a mental health disorder, like anxiety, for instance, or depression, or ADHD, or OCD, or PTSD, or bipolar disorder, any one of the multitude of mental health disorders that are out there, I want you to know that this work is a lot harder for you. And it is unfortunate, but I will also say that those that attempt to do this work, those that live through and with those disorders, are some of the most powerfully strong warriors that we have on this planet, because those internal battles that no one else knows about, that you continuously win because you're still here, that is incredible strength. So I just want to take a moment to say that if you have any of those mental health disorders, this process is harder, but don't let that discourage you. It just means that you have to have a little more patience and compassion with yourself through the process, because there's other factors involved that a typical person that doesn't have those doesn't have to accommodate for. So what they have found in the neuroscience aspect of things is that a lot of these mental health disorders stem from differences in the brain. So this is differences in the size of certain areas of the brain and the function. And with that, we can't change that so much. There is studies showing that exercise can activate certain areas and things like that that will help. But in the context of just the mental health disorder itself, there's a reason why it's a disorder. There's a reason why it makes things a little bit more challenging or more difficult to do, but you can still do it. You just have to have a little bit more patience and compassion for yourself through the process. And you can still utilize these techniques and they will still be super beneficial for you. Okay. So now that I said that, I like to make sure that people know that, because it's not as easy as, oh, just change what you're feeling. That's not at all how this is. This takes work, and it takes dedication, and it takes your willingness to constantly be willing to pause in those moments and initiate that inner will to start creating change. And that is a lot harder for some people than it is for others. So love yourself through the process always, okay? Now, take a moment to think about what channel is most active for you. If you think about a highly stressed moment for yourself, what does that channel look like for you? Which one is it? Which one is like lighting your world on fire? Because a lot of times there's one or two channels that are like, yes, that is it. That is what spins me out, is those two channels right there. And recognizing that is super important in the process of learning which ones are most active, because the ones that are most active are not the channels you want to work with in the moment, because they're busy. They're busy spinning you out. So this is why knowing the 5 channels helps you to better understand what to work with. Do you know? I invite you to share. Do you know what channels are most active for you? I can tell you for myself, the emotion channel, I am a highly emotional person. My emotional reaction is on fire all the time. And I have been told for a lot of my life that I'm too emotional, I'm too sensitive. And I kind of like that I am. I have to have a big heart and an open heart to continue to be that way. So I'm thankful for that. And my mind channel, obviously, I have anxiety. So my mind is very overactive. I also have ADHD. So there again, overactive mind. It works great. Lisa, emotion and mind channel, same as me. Maria, emotion and sensation. Yes. So that emotion and sensation, oh, yeah. So you're really in tune to that sensation aspect and how that is contributing to your emotional feeling. Mind, we've got the mind and posture. Yes, I love that. So many of us, it's the mind, right? And I would bet that almost everyone, the mind channel is super active because we live in a world where we have to be like everything is go, go, go all of the time and so active in our minds because like life just doesn't stop. Mind and emotion and imagination. Yes, monkey chatter. The monkey mind is real, guys. Monkey mind is the racing thoughts, right? And ADHD is so prevalent, or ADD is so prevalent now. I think I meet more people with it than without it. Mind and emotion, yes. So mind is a really common one. So guess what? I made a reel a while back about why affirmations don't work for everyone. Because positive affirmations, if your mind channel is busy, that affirmation is not going to stick. It's not doing a dang thing. You're just repeating words for nothing because you're not going to really be able to absorb and sink it in to change the mind process, the thought process, right? Your mind is busy. So when your mind is busy, affirmations are not going to be your choice of action, right? That it's like when, here's an easy way to compare it. Whatever channel is most active for you, imagine you're having to pick up a phone, an old school landline, and call that channel. If it's active, you're going to get a busy signal. You can't communicate with that channel. So just hang up, dial a different channel. Okay. So whatever your most active channels are, look to the other channels to be your support in the moment, because that's going to be the way that you can communicate with your nervous system. I go into that a lot more in detail in another workshop that I have, but just to share that with you guys. The other aspect I want to talk about and share, right? When we think of self-care, how many people think of, a bubble bath with some candles and, taking some time for that self-care, which is an action that you're doing. That's not what self-care is. And there's a reason why that's not what self-care is. Now, that practice could absolutely be self-care, but imagine for a moment you're running the bath, you're lighting your favorite scented candles, and you are completely stressed out and overwhelmed by your to-do list. And you are telling yourself, I gotta take time for self-care. Everyone says you need self-care, and I know I need time for self-care, so I'm gonna take this bath, and this is gonna be my self-care. Do you really think you're going to get a whole lot out of that? You're not. Because instead, what's going to happen is you're going to be in the tub. You're going to be still mulling over your to-do list. You're going to be feeling guilty for taking time away to be in this bathtub that you don't want to be in because you have these million other things to be doing to get done. And this act of self-care is now a chore, and it's not actually caring for yourself. Have you ever had that happen? Maybe it's not a bubble bath. Maybe it's another action of self-care. Maybe it's you're trying to meditate, or you're trying to make yourself do some yoga or something like that, right? But when you're trying to actively do a self-care practice and it's not working because you're stressed out still, then it wasn't self-care. You were caught up in the action of doing self-care. And really, self-care is an act of being. So when you bring somatics into your self-care practice, and this was my reason for today's workshop, when you add somatics into the self-care practice, you are bringing your present awareness into the practice. You are allowing your mind to be where you are present and participate in the practice instead of running amok still over here with the to-do list. You are allowing the imagination channel to rest. You're not allowing for it to be spinning out of control, right? Because you're present, you are grounded, you are in a state of coherence. You are allowing for your physical body to be present in what you're doing. You're allowing for the sensation channel to get on board. You're allowing for the emotional channel to get on board. It is a full body state of being. It's not self-care doing, it's self-care being, right? So if you were to look at that same bubble bath and say, hey, I am carving out this time for myself. I need to allow myself to be present so that I'm actually receiving benefit from this choice of self-care. So how can I get more present in this space? And that is where these practices come into play. So some simple practices that you can do to help you in those moments when you're really needing to get something out of your self-care and not just do an action, but actually receive that self-regulation that comes from self-care practice, which is what's supposed to happen, which is why self-care is recommended, right? So these are simple practices you can do daily throughout your day that are easy to kind of add into what you've got going on. So first one is scanning. So scanning is great if you have anxiety or PTSD. It's very grounding. It helps you to be centered and become present. So this is outer scanning. So our outer scanning is taking in the exteroception, is what it's called. It's when you slow down and scan your outer environment, which looks like actually turning your head, utilizing your eyesight, and really taking in your physical environment. This helps to slow your world down inside, but it sends a signal to the nervous system that your environment is safe. And let me tell you, this communication with your nervous system done on purpose is such a powerful action, because when your nervous system feels safe, it relaxes. So taking in that awareness through the outer scanning of your environment will help slow down the fast pace of your inner world, right? So it helps to quiet the mind. It helps to restore a sense of safety in the nervous system so that you can relax a little bit more. And a lot of times, just from the outer scanning, you'll recognize your breath deepens naturally. And this is a practice that you can do anytime, anywhere. If you have social anxiety or anxiety being out in public, if Walmart stresses you out, right? Taking a moment to outwardly scan is a practice you can do to bring a sense of relaxation to your nervous system so that you can approach it from a different state of being. And that, I wish I would have had that information 30 some years ago when I was struggling so bad with anxiety. So that's a practice that I absolutely recommend if you need a little help with getting present and restoring a sense of safety. Safety is an underlying foundational aspect of being able to be regulated in your nervous system. Because guess what? If you're not in a safe environment, you're not going to be regulated, right? So this brings that to the forefront of your nervous system. Hey, look, I'm in a safe environment. This is also a great practice to do if you're someone with anxiety about speaking, if you have trouble public speaking, but you need to, right? This can restore some peace and calm to the nervous system. And if you think about, if you've heard of EMDR practices, the eye movement desensitization processes, right? Scanning, the outer scanning is using the same aspects of EMDR. This is why EMDR works. It is that visual connection to the brainstem that connects with the vagus nerve to instill relaxation. So you're doing this practice for yourself. Inner scanning is kind of the same notion as the outer scanning, except you're turning your vision inwards. So you're actually closing the eyes and you're inwardly scanning the sensations of every area of your body. So a good introduction to that would be Yoga Nidra. Yoga Nidra is a very deep body awareness practice where you are inwardly scanning and sending all your attention and awareness to certain areas of the body. So this inner scanning also helps to support this inner sense of safety and awareness that helps your nervous system relax because you're telling your nervous system, hey, I'm paying attention. I got this, right? So it helps it to relax just a little more. Now, deep breathing. Deep breathing. So deep breathing practices is something I learned in massage school. The diaphragmatic breathing is what it's called. So our diaphragm rests just under our rib cage and assists with deep breaths, right? So that deep inhalation, our diaphragm expands just below our rib cage, and you can feel it when you deep breathe, right? So here's a little fun little fact for you because I love this stuff and I love being nerdy with this stuff, but the fascia or connective tissue of the diaphragm is connected to the connective tissue of the heart, the pericardium of the heart. So just think for a moment, if you can visualize, the rib cage and this diaphragm balloon being under the rib cage, and this fascia or connective tissue that is surrounding the diaphragm comes up and attaches to the connective tissue, the pericardium of the heart. So you've got this thread of tissue now connecting the diaphragm and the heart. When you inhale, it pulls on that tissue of the heart. And when you exhale, it relaxes and releases it. So this expansion contraction that is going on when you deep breathe begins to also regulate your heart rate. And your heart rate, of course, helps to send a nervous signal, a signal to your nervous system that you're relaxing, right? This is so fascinating to me. I love learning about this connection. That was like a complete mind-blown moment because even though I had known about diaphragmatic breathing and that it can slow your heart rate, I didn't know why. So for me, learning that connective tissue aspect of how it's actually connected through connective tissue to the heart was just one of those mind-blowing moments for me that I love to share about because that to me is like, that's how it works. That makes sense. So in the process of deep breathing, you are helping to slow the heart rate. So anyone that has anxiety knows your heart rate is one of those nervous system responses when you start getting anxious or over-energized. So being able to have a moment that helps you slow the heart rate down is so powerful in the moment. And we do that through breath. And I know if you have anxiety and you've had a therapist tell you to do some deep breathing to help you, a lot of times it makes people roll their eyes and they're like, deep breathing doesn't work. You got to breathe into the diaphragm. If you're deep breathing into your chest, you're not deep breathing. That's not the deep breathing style that works. You have to breathe into the diaphragm. You have to be able to feel that expansion in the rib cage. So actually placing your hand on your belly, just above your belly button. And when you inhale, inhaling to feel that expansion in that area. That is the diaphragm expanding. That is making your hand move when you do that. That is diaphragmatic breathing. That breathing is what's going to help slow the heart rate and help calm the nervous system. It also helps you to come into that state of coherence because your breath and your heart are so intricately connected. And breathing into the diaphragm, of course, what's there? You know, you've got your guts in there too. So you're sending this response that, oh, she's not shallow breathing anymore. She's deep breathing. So she must be safe. She must be okay. We're not running from a saber-toothed tiger in this moment. We don't have to be sounding the alarms. We can relax, right? So all of this is that internal conversation that the body-mind communication channels are having with or without your knowledge, right? Your awareness. So deep breathing helps to change that inner communication. Next is body tapping. So there's body tapping and there's EFT tapping. Body tapping is bringing your awareness back to your physical body and sensation. So if you need to access those channels, literally tapping on the body to bring your awareness back into the body. If you're someone that dissociates and ignores your physical self, this is a great practice to do. It helps you to connect to your physical self, and you literally just light taps on the physical self will bring you back into your body. EFT tapping, that's going to be the bonus for those of you on live today. I'm going to walk you through how to develop your own EFT tapping practice that is specific for you to help you with what you're doing. That is a very common practice. I learned that 20 years ago in massage school. It has been a tool that's been with me ever since. I use it for physical things like allergies. It's actually how I figured out that I had a food allergy. Wild story. But EFT tapping, it's one of my favorites to do when you really need to create some shifts in the mind while actively tapping on certain areas of the body. So we'll get into that as the bonus for those of you on live. There's a practice called self-havening. So self-havening is a trademark practice that is taught specifically. And in essence, what it is your ability to connect into an emotional state by using your imagination channel. So imagining maybe someone that you love or care for deeply, imagining an instance that creates a deep sense of gratitude and appreciation, and tapping into that emotional state, and then applying a self-massage, massaging the hands and the arms up to the shoulders, right? And bringing that felt emotional sensation into your physical application of touch to provide a safe touch for yourself that is nurturing and nourishing to your energy system and to your nervous system. So that is a practice that you can do to instill a sense of self-care, but also from the perspective of you're calming and regulating your nervous system through the practice. Then there's something called progressive muscle relaxation. And this is something that I also learned in massage school and again with yoga teacher training. So progressive muscle relaxation is the active contraction and then release of an area of the body. And you can do this head to toe. And you can find really great YouTube videos on this that walk you through a really relaxing progressive muscle relaxation. If you are someone that struggles with going to sleep at night, taking a little bit of time to make progressive muscle relaxation part of your bedtime routine can be really helpful for calming the nervous system and relaxing the body and helping you to get into that state a little bit easier. The same with yoga nidra. So yoga nidra, we don't have necessarily the progressive muscle relaxation. Some of them do incorporate that. But both are really great for relaxing the nervous system and bringing your awareness into the body. There are other techniques as well. They're a little bit longer, so not necessarily simple things that you can add into daily practices, but there are things that you can do if you're looking for something that is more of a whole technique. So we've got the physical aspect. If you're looking for physical things to help, somatic yoga, Feldenkrais, which is a type of somatic movement exercise. Also, there's the Hannah somatics method, there's the Alexander method. All of these are somatic-based movement exercises, and somatic yoga, of course, is also somatic-based movement exercise. Rolfing, which is a specific massage technique. Somatic body work, which bridges all of that together. There's posturing, changing your body's posture. There is the body tapping like we did, the self-massage like the self-havening, and then of course dance. So these are practices that might take a little bit longer or be a specific practice that you choose to incorporate, but they are things that help with the nervous system. If you're looking for something for more of the emotional state of being, this is where you experience like somatic experiencing. Somatic experiencing was developed by Dr. Peter Levine, and you can find numerous talks that he gives online. He's quite incredible. So his research showed that a lot of times stored emotion or trauma in the body is because we didn't complete a physical process. So like we didn't move the way we wanted to move. And so that is stored in the body as a repressed movement or energetic expression that didn't get to be expressed. And so through somatic experiencing, you get to learn how to tap into that sensation where it's being held and what actually wanted to move through the body. TRE, or tension and trauma releasing exercises. This is something that I have done in my yoga classes before for people. So TRE is a specific set of exercises meant to fatigue the legs. And then we start into the shaking process to move this built up tension that is held in the body. This is best done on a one-on-one kind of scenario because it can be really powerful to move through. There's a lot of emotion, and that, of course, we're working with the emotion channel when we're doing this. There's also the body-mind centering practices where we're coming into that state of coherence. So I am a heart math practitioner, so I teach people how to come into that state of coherence through breath work and other active exercises that you can do to really be in that body-mind centered state. And then there's somatic breath work, which is also something I practice as well. Somatic breath work is really working with your breath to initiate changes within your cycles of breath to create an emotional release of stored emotional tension. So it is specific breath work, not just diaphragmatic breathing, that actually activates your fight or flight response and then sends you into a relaxation response to help move that excess energy out of the nervous system. Then you've got mental practices. So the mental practices are going to be like your mindfulness meditations, yoga nidra, biofeedback, affirmations and mantras, and chanting. So if you have the space within your mental awareness to start creating changes, this could be when you're not in an active state of dysregulation, but you want to add these practices to what you do on a regular basis. Chanting, for instance, because it is forcing your mind to be focused, can be a form of meditation for you're training your mind. And that's ultimately what meditation helps you to do, regain control over an overactive mind. So if you have anxiety, you tend to spin out mentally in the mind channel, imagination channel, which tend to be really closely linked. Then meditation practices are the tools that help to teach you how to regain control over your mind. That also includes yoga nidra because you're being guided in the meditation, and mantras because you're having to be focused on what it is you're saying, and the same with chanting. And biofeedback is something that we do in like the heart math coherence practices. So I have a biofeedback tool that I use as well that can help show you when you're actually in that flow state. And it is pretty wild as well. So these are some of the physical somatic practices that you can do to help you. Now, to enhance effectiveness, you got to slow down. Right? You've got to actually slow down and be in the experience. And that's something that is often missed with our practices, like I talked about in the self-care practice of a bubble bath. If you're not slowing down for the experience, you're missing the actual point of the practice. So somatics is really about slowing down and paying attention to that internal state, bringing your awareness to you and presencing yourself. I cannot emphasize that enough. You can go through these practices and not receive much of a benefit. And that is mostly because you're not slowing down in the practice. Any questions so far? If you do, comment below in the chat, or you're welcome to unmute in this moment if you have anything you want to ask or share. Now just pause.
What was the name of the book again on the Holocaust survivor?
Man's Search for Meaning.
Okay.
Man's Search for Meaning. He developed an entire, it's called logotherapy, entire therapeutic practice to help people overcome trauma and find the joy in life again. And in my research of logotherapy, it's still used today for trauma therapy. And I am so deeply impressed with his work. Like, I'm like, oh, I know where I'm headed already. I already know where I'm headed. I absolutely love it. So I definitely looking him up. He is quite an incredible person.
Okay. Thank you.
So next I want to talk about, aside from practices, other things that you can do to help yourself. And that includes CBD and functional mushrooms. They have been so vastly popular, but I want to talk about specifically why they've become so popular and how it helps with somatic wellness. And that is because we have an endocannabinoid system. So when we're talking about CBD, we're talking about how it influences the body based on the endocannabinoid system. And I will tell you, not all CBD is created equal. I went on a journey because I wanted to find something else to be helpful in those moments when maybe you were too overwhelmed to really help, or you're just kind of tired of the whole self-help or self-healing journey, and you just want something to kind of help take the edge off of things. CBD can be really wonderful to work with, but not all CBD is created equal, and I didn't know this. The hemp plant itself is actually used to cleanse and clear the soil. What that means is the plant itself actually pulls the toxins out of the soil, and it is found within the plant itself. So there are those that farm hemp to be used to cleanse the soil for the next crop that's coming through. But what happens is they still sell this CBD, and it's really garbage CBD. But people will buy the cheap CBD and bottle it up in fancy packaging and sell it as CBD to be used to be beneficial. And this is why testing is so, so important, because that is not the CBD you want to use, because all those harmful chemicals that was pulled out of the soil in this farming process is now in the CBD that you're taking. And for anyone that's sensitive like me, you absolutely will feel like garbage on it. And that was what I experienced. And I was like, how are they saying CBD is helpful when it is making me feel like crap? And it is because I didn't know that that was a thing. And now that I know better, I do better. And by doing better, I work with only CBD that is organically grown and has been through testing to make sure that the quality is there. And also understanding the difference between broad spectrum and full spectrum. So your broad spectrum does not have THC in it. So this is good for those that are tested, have to be drug tested for work and things like that. You're better off with a broad spectrum, whereas full spectrum, you get microdosed amounts of THC in the 0.03% allowance in our state. So that is like a microdose of THC within the CBD. So that's really the difference between broad spectrum and full spectrum. And the endocannabinoid system, so big fancy word, but we all have it, and it helps in the sense that they are receptors that are in our body. It helps with regulation of pain, sleep, appetite. It also helps our motor function and neurological function. So this is why you see CBD being claimed to have so many benefits. But I am not one that believes that anything is a cure-all, by no means at all. If anything has the ability to create any type of therapeutic value, it also must have the potential to harm. And so I always like to preface that I'm not one that believes in a cure-all of anything. It's just not the case. But there is a way that CBD is supportive, and that is the nervous system. It really helps us support the nervous system. If you're new to me, I've been a shamanic practitioner for over 20 years. In my work in the shamanic realm, we sit with plant medicine, and cannabis is one of those plant medicines. Cannabis helps with the slowing down of time, right? If anyone's experienced it, you know what I'm talking about. It will slow down time. And that is really the medicine when we talk about it coming from a plant medicine perspective. It helps with the slowing down of time. What that looks like in the nervous system is your ability to slow down and be more present. It's your ability to really be able to be in the moment, to catch those little parts that help you determine where you might be spinning out and draw it back in through the somatic practices. So this is the way that I understand CBD to work with the system when we're dealing with holistic wellness altogether. And then we've got the functional mushrooms that have been really popular as well. So the functional mushrooms really help to support the immune system as well as the neurological system. So we've got this dual component here for anyone that has immune system issues. Autoimmune disorders are rampant in my family, and they are a pain in the butt. But what a lot of people don't realize is the immune system modulation that occurs with functional mushrooms is really beneficial for autoimmune disorders. I shouldn't say that as a general, but for a lot of the autoimmune disorders, it is really beneficial. But also it's the brain component, it's the neurological factor, it's the clarity of thought as well. And the same with the CBD. It brings this clarity of thought and ability to focus that is so helpful for people that have a lot of nervous system dysfunction. So this is why it's becoming a lot more popular. As I said, not all products are created equal. In my own search, I finally found a company that I really, really love, and that is Green Compass. They are local out of Wilmington, so I also have to love that too. But they are USDA organic certified, and they're kosher, they're vegan friendly, they're not tested on animals, and I love all of those aspects. I very rarely ever see so many stamps like that on a single product, and it's something that I absolutely love about their specific products. And the fact that I can actually take a CBD tincture and it doesn't make me sick because it's not filled with garbage. So I have found a lot of benefit to it myself, so I like to share it. Now, they do have special offers if anyone is interested in learning more about this company specific and how their products are different. I am more than happy to help you with that. If not, you can go and research them yourself. It doesn't really matter to me. I am an affiliate with them, but that is because I love the product, and I only allow myself to be affiliated with a product if I absolutely love it. The same with essential oils. I'm super picky with essential oils as well. There's only certain companies I recommend, and that is Plant Therapy and Eden's Garden. I'm affiliates of them too. So if you're interested in top quality essential oils that are not ridiculously expensive, let me know. I'd be happy to get you connected with any of these companies, because to me, it all goes to help support the holistic aspect of wellness. Holistic meaning, in this sense, like natural, all of the natural ways we can support ourselves on this journey of nervous system regulation and just getting through life with a little bit more ease and grace and joy, which I think all of us want. So that is my extra spiel on that I decided I really wanted to incorporate in this, because I know that there's lots of products out there, but there's not a lot of people that really teach or share about how it helps and what you need to look for. So if you're looking for a resource for that, I'd be happy to help you in that arena as well. All right, now, everything that you've learned today so far, what somatics is and the history, right? We know that it's more than just a practice. It is the whole communication system in the body, right? And you've learned the importance of that body-mind connection and why it's important in self-regulation, how that communication system works, the different body-mind channels that you can tune into to help communicate. And essentially, I like to say hack the nervous system, because really what you're doing, you're hacking the nervous system, and you're telling the nervous system what it is you want it to be focused on, instead of maybe something else that it's focused on that's sending you into dysregulation. So that's really, to me, what somatics has been like a hacking tool of hacking the nervous system and taking control back over how my nervous system is functioning, so that I'm not spinning out of control. But like I shared, my journey with this came after I already experienced healing through the healing arts. You know, massage and Reiki and yoga were all such important aspects of my healing journey. And I didn't understand why they worked or how they worked. I was just happy that they worked, right? So somatics has been that missing piece for me that describes and explains how each of those processes was actually working to help bring a regulated state back to my nervous system, so I could have that pause, I could have that healing, I could have that spaciousness within myself, that window of resiliency to be able to continue. And really, that is the power of somatics. You also learn some simple somatic practices that you can use to start talking to your nervous system, like the scanning, right? That is a huge one. That external scanning, the outer scanning, or the inner scanning. You've learned some body tapping, right? And how different things like meditation or affirmations, when you can use it and when it's just not going to work, right? So these are all important aspects to consider when you're working with somatics as a practice for helping you in regulating your nervous system. Do you have any questions about that? If so, I invite you to share.
Do you incorporate foods, healthy eating into all of this?
So I am someone with many focuses, but nutrition is not one of them. I have to draw the line somewhere. I do have friends in the area that specialize in nutrition coaching, and I'd be more than happy to give you referrals for that. But I have to stay in my lane, and nutrition is not my lane. It's not something that I'm super passionate about. Is it important? Absolutely. And for my own personal nutrition, I do pay attention to that. But I have a ton of food allergies, and I have an autoimmune disorder that makes me have allergic reactions to things I'm not allergic to. So for me, I have to follow a low histamine diet, and there's certain things that I have to do for myself. So nutrition, in terms of my own personal nutrition, I'm very well educated in, but for nutrition as a whole for other people, that is a whole nother realm of education that I don't have time for. So I let other people that are passionate about that do that. I am someone that juggles many things, and any of you that have known me for a while can attest to that. So I do lots of other things. I don't do that, but I know people that do.
Okay.
I would absolutely refer you to.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking, because yes, nutrition is an important part too.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right.
Oops.
Yep, go ahead. Yes? No? Is that someone? Okay. So some other ways that you can work with somatics. I've got the Somatic Reset Yoga for Self-Care coming up. This is happening February 22nd. It's a 4-hour class, and this class is educational and experiential, right? So this class is going to teach you more about the science of somatics, as well as proven practices to regulate your nervous system. And we'll be doing a somatic reset yoga class together as well. And from that, you'll be creating your own perfect self-care routine based on somatic reset yoga. So you're developing your own yoga flow that'll help you in your own daily life practice for what you do, say for work, when you've got like repetitive stuff happening at work. If you're a desk sitter, you know, trying to open up through the shoulders, or if you're someone that's constantly looking down a lot, working on the neck, or perhaps the hips if you're dealing with hip pain. So this class is designed to teach you the best somatic reset moves. So these are somatic movement exercises. It's not traditional yoga. There's no like hatha style yoga, anything like that. We don't stretch in somatic yoga. We pandiculate. We work with the neuromuscular system of contracting and relaxing to initiate change in the holding pattern of the muscle. So it is a completely different frame around how we're doing the movements. So this is offered as continuing education for massage therapists, or it is open to the public if you just want the additional education for yourself to help your own longevity in your career, or perhaps just to feel better in your body and better understand something that you can specifically work with to help you. Now, this is a special for you guys with the code SOMA77. Instead of $99, it is $77 for you if you choose to sign up. I think there's only 2 spots left. I'm not sure. I forgot to look this morning before I jumped on here. But that is definitely something if you're interested in to check out. Let me check this. I just got some messages. Let's see. Oh, thank you. Yes, Lisa, it's in person. This one is in person. I'm getting to the online one. This one's in person, February 22nd from 1 to 5. So with this, you'll learn to regulate your nervous system, how to boost productivity, improve clarity and focus, of course, feel better in your body, and career longevity. Like that's really what this has been for me in my practice as a body worker for 20 years. Like, y'all, I get body pain. Like I have repetitive use injuries, and I had to find something to help me lengthen my career because I'm not ready to change careers yet. And I've always imagined myself continuing on this path until I die. I'm going to be, 70 years old, still doing body work. And the only way I can do that is if I support my body. And for me, looking at somatic movement exercise has been imperative in my own self-healing journey, and it has allowed me to continue working. So if you are someone that experiences physical pain, especially if it's because of work-related stuff or tension or stress, the overwhelm, the emotional connection, this is going to be such a powerful experience for you. So you are invited to that with your special code. And then there's also an online version. This is the Somatic Reset 4-week online immersion, which is a group coaching session where you learn the science of somatics again. You experience practices to help regulate your nervous system, except in this class, we're not doing the somatic reset yoga. We are focused on different nervous system regulation practices so that you can become an expert in working with your own nervous system and helping yourself and creating your own perfect self-care routine out of that. So you'll be figuring out your best practices that you can do for your unique nervous system function. So like I shared in today's session, there are certain aspects that aren't going to work if your channel of awareness is busy, right? If your mind channel is busy, you're not going to be able to just sit and meditate. So we're going to together create the perfect routine for you that's really going to work with your nervous system. So this is being offered at $88. I don't have this next one set up yet. So I gave you a code that's not active yet, but when I do get it set up and going, it'll be happening here soon. I'll be getting it set up. We'll be holding another 4-week online immersion style coaching retreat, and I look forward to that. That has been my favorite. I've been teaching that for about 2 years now, and I kind of got off. I was doing it like every couple of months, and then I had to take a break for a while for school because schoolwork was becoming a lot and there was a lot going on at home. And so for my own nervous system regulation, I said I need to take something off my plate, and this was something off my plate for a little while, so I'm bringing it back. We have our own little group. We have group coaching calls. There can also be one-on-one coaching calls. People that have already gone through this have seen such a difference in the way they get to approach life. And that is really what it's all about. If I can help someone experience less anxiety, less stress, if I can help them understand their nervous system so they can reclaim their power and really initiate what it is they want to feel and hold on to that throughout the day. Like, that is what I aim to do, because it makes life so much better when we can do that. We get to enjoy the experience rather than living life from a place of being stressed out, because that's not fun. So if I can do that for anyone, then I have done my job. And I hope even just through this free webinar, I've been able to help you figure that out, because that is really what this is about. So another favorite author of mine, Carlos Castaneda, he wrote the book, The Teachings of Don Juan. And he said, we either make ourselves miserable or we make ourselves strong. The amount of work is the same. And I love that, because it's so true. Our nervous system is working just as hard to make ourselves spin out as if we actually utilized our nervous system to start initiating a change and find inner calm and peace. The work is the same. So we have this power at our fingertips, and the more you know about how to talk to and work with your own nervous system, the easier it is for you to regain control of that. So thank you guys for being here. I hope you learned something from this, and I hope that you found this beneficial for you. And I would love to know if there's any other way that I can support you on your journey, and you are welcome to let me know that. For those of you that are on live, there is the special bonus for you. So don't disappear just yet, because we do have another bonus. But before we do that, I just want to say thank you again for being here, for showing up, for participating in today's workshop on somatics. I hope that you learned something, and thank you. I'm going to stop the recording. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do. I'm going to stop the recording eventually. Okay.